Infernal greetings, infernal blessings. Ravana Noon is back from a short, but to some may seem long hiatus. This discussion this evening will be about certain very important principles we have to understand as vampires. And that is a predator never takes on the morality of its prey. Let me repeat that so we don't get it lost in translation. A predator never takes on the morality of its prey. We are in a day and time where the mind is under attack. We are under constant attack. We have directed energy weapons that are directing our own thoughts back to us, utilizing our own voice. But in actuality, those thoughts are not ours. They're planted in our head. We have social media describing and telling us what is right, what is wrong, what is considered okay, and what is not considered okay. All these things and much more are constantly affecting us day in, day out. But what we have to understand is as a predator, spiritual predatorism is the law of the land. What law? The spiritual law. Self-preservation. We have gotten far away and disconnected from the reality that we are still a part of nature. We are as much a part of nature as any other living creature on this planet. But because we've become high and mighty, we've become sophisticated in technology, we've become sophisticated in what appears to be morality, but it's nothing more than a false illusion. We are disconnected. We are disconnected from our primal self. We are disconnected from the primal self, the instinctual self, the reptilian brain part of ourselves, where your higher psychic awareness and senses can be found. We are being flooded by New Age bullcrap, by UFO religions, so on and so forth. The left hand path is being invaded by New Age philosophy, by religious mentality. And it's taken away the core and the essence of what our work is all about. We have to get away from morality. And what I speak of in terms of morality is morality that may have been taught to us by religion, morality that's taught to us by our culture, our family, morality that's taught to us by society, so on and so forth. That handcuffs us, that chains us, and binds us, and never allows us to be free. Do not get it twisted. I'm not saying that vampires do not have morality. We do. But that morality is based upon our own experience, our own perception through another principle that I'm going to share today that we as vampires live by. Experiment and experience. Experiment and experience. We should do anything and everything possible to experience all things we desire to. If you want to experience what it's like to be successful, what it's like to be wealthy, then you should by all means create the experiment that allows you to experience that in this time of existence you currently are residing in. You should not make excuses for lack of experience when it is up to you, God, Goddess, to create your experiences. To wait for an experience to happen is to wait for Jesus to come back. It is to wait for a God to save you. It is a wait for some savior to be outside of yourself to come and do it for you. Again, you're doing a disservice to yourself. You are, by extension, the master and ruler over self. You are the sovereign grand commander over self. No one can take that from you unless you hand it to them on a silver platter, which unfortunately many of us do that every day. We give up our rights every day. We give up our power every day. And we place it in the hands of those that we think will secure our future. Wrong. You must do everything under your power to secure your future. So let's get back to experiments and experience because this is a very important vampire principle. Everything that you encounter in your life, all the things you want to see, all the things you want to encounter should all be based upon an experiment that you've created. You are the one who is the ruler over your life, so therefore you must gauge everything under an experiment to gain the experience. What do I mean? So, you're a scientist. We all are wise scientists over our life. A scientist creates a hypothesis. A hypothesis is that which they believe the outcome would be. And then they create the trials, experiment, so to speak, to see if that outcome is true or untrue. It's true or untrue. So you must create the experiments based upon a hypothesis you want to figure out based on your life. So you want to see how powerful you can be in physical stature. The hypothesis would be if I go to the gym X amount of times in a week, in a month, in several months to a year, I should see some muscle gain. Now, that's the hypothesis. Now the trial or the clinical trial takes place by you actually going to the gym and exercising, finding out which exercises best work to assist you in gaining muscle. You cannot say, I want to gain muscle, and your ass is sitting home doing nothing but watching the boob tube, feeding yourself, stuffing your face, and then you wonder why you're gaining weight. You're gaining weight because you're doing nothing to the end goal of muscle gain. Experiment. Leave the morality at the door. If you desire someone, create the experiment based upon the hypothesis that you have in regards to that individual and execute the game plan. You can't wait. You can't sit there. You have to take action. That is what a vampire does. We do not sit there and whine, complain, and just sit in misery because we know we can create our own existence. But we've gotten away from this understanding. We've gotten away from these principles, and therefore we cannot execute as a vampire. Unfortunately, in today's vampire world, we have a lot of fashion vamps, as I like to call them. They wear the nice clothes, the gothic clothing. They have the dark fingernails. They have the black lipstick. They all goth out. That's a fashion show. That's why I say they're fashion vamp. That has nothing. Let me clearly say this for any vampire that wants to debate this, debate with yourself in the mindset and please explain to me, when did gothic culture get incorporated into vampire culture? Because it wasn't there for X amount of years. It's like a recent phenomenon. So we have fashion vamps that are posing as real vamps. They got the fangs, the red contacts, the whole nine. I'm not saying everyone who does that is a fashion vamp. Some people genuinely do that because they like the aesthetic of it. They like the aesthetics. They like the fright and fear may cause someone. That's all good. I'm talking about those who claim to be vamps and do nothing in the for the progression of vampirism. As a vamp, you experiment because there is no one way to feed. I don't care what any vampiric author has written. That is just their way to feed. That is not the only way to feed. See, we have to understand that as a vampire, you are constantly experimenting and finding new ways to feed. It should not be limited to what you've read. It should not be limited to what you were taught. You should be pushing the envelope all the time to find new ways to feed because there are numerous amounts of ways to feed. Numerous amounts. But we have those who look the part but have nothing at all to offer vampirism. Then we have those who are so caught up in sounding deep as if they know what vampirism is, but they get drained out at a drop of a dime when they're around a real vampire. In actuality, a real vampire, you probably would never see them coming. A real vampire, you would not even know they were a vampire. They would blend into society in many ways, many looks, many fashions, many whatever. They would blend in there. They would not stick out like a sore thumb. That would defeat the purpose of what it'd be like to be a vampire. You should have the power of seduction. You should be subtle in your ways. You should be able to tap into the mind and plant thoughts and seeds in someone. But if you stick out like a sore thumb, I'm going to reject you. I'm going to deny you. I'm going to avoid you. I'm just utilizing these things to make us think, to make us think. We have so many fragmented groups within vampirism, it is becoming astronomically a joke. We do not take this serious anymore. It is nothing to play with. As a matter of fact, to me, vampire sorcery, and I use that as opposed to vampire magic, and I'll break down why in a minute. Vampire sorcery is one of the highest forms of sorcery that can be utilized on the left hand path for your apotheosis. Now, I say sorcery for a reason. Magic has become comical nowadays. Magic has been associated with Harry Potter, it's been associated with Lord of the Rings, it's been associated with all these movies. So people think magic is something instantaneous. It is not. In most cases, it doesn't happen overnight. Sorcery, though, listen to the root of the word. You are the source of your sorcery. You are the source, and I'll use this for common terms, of magic. It all begins and ends with you. Nothing happens without you. So in vampire sorcery, to me, that is the highest form, to me, the highest form that we could utilize on a left hand path. Because you have to understand the difference between devouring and draining in the process. You have to understand the difference in transmutation through devouring and just complete annihilation through draining. You have to understand that morality will keep you bound. To be a predator is to be amoral. But yet, I hear vampires throwing morality around in vampirism as if it's the new way to do things. It's always been amoral and it will always be amoral, but you fools are weak. You fools are scary. You fools want to conform to society, and a vampire never conforms. We don't conform. We do not conform. We are the wild child. We are the predator. We are the beast. We are the beast that feeds. We are the beast that awakens. We are the beast that creates. We are the beast that transforms. We do not wait. That's what it means to be a vampire. We understand that there's an alchemical process that takes place in vampirism. Right now, in our Order of the Black Serpents class, we are going through the 7 stages of vampiric alchemy. Ravana, what do you mean, vampiric alchemy? Yes, correct. We are experimenting and creating alchemy, an alchemical spiritual process for vampires to create themselves into a totality 100% complete vampire. And to do that, you must go through an alchemical process so that the limitations of your humanity does not limit your progression. So right now we have 7 stages of alchemy. And trust me when I tell you, it is a doozy woozy. Many of our vampire members in the vampiric order of the Black Serpents are going through it. They're experiencing things mentally, physically, spiritually. They are going through it. That is what real work should be like. It shouldn't be just read, imitate, and then you expect results. It should be destructive, chaotic. It should tear you apart, put you back together. That is what happens on the left hand path. That is what occurs through self mastery. It is not a gentle, loving, sweet process. It is a chaotic, destructive, tears you from limb to limb. Also, you could be recreated again. We must understand these 7 stages. We must go through these 7 stages of spiritual vampiric alchemy to really get an understanding that human aspect should be calcinated, should be dissolved, so on and so forth. Because that is what we hold on to, and therefore we can't break free. That is what we hold on to, limit our potential. We, we, we must awaken and realize we are not what we've been told. We must awaken and realize that you are the only God that is. Not God in the sense of a sky daddy, sky mama, goddesses and gods, multiple, plural, in the sense of responsibility, accountability, transformability, meaning you transforming yourself to a greater aspect, greater self. We cannot continue the games of humanity that we play each and every day. There is much more on the horizon that is coming our way. Your freedoms will be under attack. And I refer to mental freedoms, your mental freedoms to think for yourself, to be able to expand your thought process, to be able to see beyond the illusions in front of you and realize that through every illusion is a reality. Through every reality is an illusion. Not in the sense that you're not real, you are. Not in the sense that this world is not real, it is. For those who say we're living in illusion, smack them, punch them, kick them, see if that illusion hurts. Because it will be hurtful to be punched in the face, and their reality must then be confirmed that, oh, it's not just an illusion, this is some real shit. Yes, that is the difference between ourselves and you fluffers, you new agers, you right hand pathers, so on and so forth. That is the difference. We understand reality and illusions. We understand them. We actually push the envelope and create and destroy these things and recreate, so on and so forth. But this is why we undergo this alchemical process. Much like our forefather, much like our undead ascended master of ancient Kemet, the great pharaoh, who spoke about devouring the gods, feeding on the gods. We must understand that we've become soft, we've become weak, we've become fragile, and we are afraid to be ourselves. That's right, I said it. We are afraid to be ourselves. We run from ourselves. We hide from ourselves. Therefore, we are always stuck within the self. We are always stuck within the self because we refuse to wake up. We refuse to wake up because the illusion seems so much nicer. It seems so much sweeter. Much like the Matrix, people were not able to break free. They were not able to awaken. They became a weaker version of themselves. They became servants. They became slaves. They became weak. They became soft. And this is what's happening today. Many people are weak, soft, scary. They're everything but what they should be. And that is a shame. It's a complete and utter shame. But it's happening. It's happening every day. Why do I say it's happening? Because I've seen it happening. I've seen it happening. I've seen how we are afraid. I've seen how we're pussies. I've seen it. It's nothing to be ashamed about because it happens. It happens every day. And it will continue to happen. It will continue to happen. Unfortunately, there is not much that people are willing to do to be free. The Pharaoh Unas understood that. Unas understood that we must be free. And to do that, we must devour the gods. Not be fearful, not be afraid, not be scary. We must devour the gods. Take their power for ourselves. And right now, in the left hand path, too many people worship. You all are worshipers. You all are in totality worshipers and don't even realize you still have the mindset of a Christian, a Muslim, or a Jew. You still worship. You still think Lilith is real. Now, people will say, Ravana, you don't think Lilith's real? No, I don't. I don't. I do not. I understand that she is an egregore, which became an archetype, which is synonymous with characteristics, attributes, and power and energy that we associate with that archetype known as Lilith, Lilitu, so on and so forth. Now, when you accept that Lilith is something that you are connecting with, the energy, the archetype, the egregore, whatever the case may be, then it starts to become real to you because your mind makes it real. It makes it real. And once your mind makes it real, it becomes real to you. Before then, Lilith did not exist to you. But the problem is when you start to work with Lilith, you create a version of Lilith that you think you need and not that you want. You create a version of Lilith that is docile, a version of Lilith that is sweet, motherly. And many a times we create these versions because of our trauma, of our issues, of our core needs, of our programming, and never get to the primal part of Lilith, which we most need. The part that devours us, the part that tears us apart, the part of her that makes us confront our weaker selves. We want to justify it. We want to make her nice because we're not really ready to be a true predator. We want to make her sweet because we're not really ready to be a true predator. Therefore, we limit our potential. We limit our potential because we are weak. That's just the sad part. The sad reality is many of us are weak. Many of us are weak. And when you meditate on that and you sit in there, then you can change and transmute your weakness into a strength. Then and only then will you make a difference. Will you create a different world? But you have to be ready. You have to really be ready to do something like that. Because when it comes down to it, and it's time to really devour the gods, feed upon the gods, that programming comes back up. That worship comes back up. And you'll cripple yourself in the act. A true vampire knows that there's one day they have to meet the ascended vampires. Some call them the undead gods, the undead masters. They were human, flesh, blood, and bone, who existed just like we exist right now, who through their vampiric sorcery reached apotheosis and translated that into the after, or after the death of the physical body. They retained their consciousness and expanded that consciousness, and they're there to teach, share, give us gnosis. But you must be trained to be ready for that. You can train yourself or you could train with others. It doesn't matter. But the point is, you will meet these undead masters of vampire sorcery. And either on that day you receive the sacrament or you're devoured and drained out because you weren't ready. You pretended to be a vampire. A lot of this may go over some of y'all heads because you've only read certain aspects of vampirism. You read the morality, the moral teachings that are out there right now, vampirism. It's not moral. It is very, very, very serious when it comes to vampirism, how predatory this really is, how beast-like it really is. It is very, very important. But you must have discipline. Discipline to a vampire is honing your will, honing your skills, so much so that it becomes a two-edged sword, sharp and ready to cut in all directions. You must be ready to slice and dice what remains of you that wants to hold on to morality. You must be ready to break the chains that bind you. You need discipline because discipline is what separates you from the sheep, from the cattle, from the herd. Discipline is what allows you to have experiences. Without that, you become a useless eater. No better than anyone else who can't control their life, make excuses, whine, 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 and complain. This is the reality of vampirism. To be a true predator, one must go beyond your limitations. One must go beyond their limitations. You must break that morality. A true predator is vicious in nature. A true predator is cunning in nature, deceptive in nature, ferocious in nature. It is beyond what we humans have the capacity to understand. Until you break free from that, then you become us as vampires. We don't dream about grandiose ideologies and grandiose dreams that we have no discipline to manifest. This path is not a social path for us to get along, play hopscotch, patty cakes, and so on and so forth. It is a path that will tear you apart from limb to limb and expose you if you're fake and lying to us and yourself. Are you ready? That's the question you ask yourself. Speaking of vampirism, there's a new class that will be beginning in January. As you all know, in December, I take a break from my Patreon classes. I do more work on the self, more alchemical practice on the self, more sorcery on the self, more understanding results of that. So I take a month away. I give assignments to my Patreon classes so they can do work during that month. But in January, we have a new class. I put out the announcement on the Temples of the Black Serpent on Instagram. That new class is sexual vampirism. Now, you may ask, Ravana, isn't it all a part of vampirism? Yes. But the mentality that we have as people, the poison that we have about sexuality, the abuse that we have utilized our sexual delights, how we abuse that power, will all be discussed in sexual vampirism. And I did this for a reason because I have a basic introductory class for vampirism. It's called Awakening the Sleeping Dragon. That class is an introductory class. Soon we're going to come to the end of that class, and I'm going to ask everybody to transfer into the sexual vampirism class. We all have hangups about sexuality. We all have to confront this at one point or another. That's the reality. But the vampiric aspect of it will empower you, will strengthen you, will give you new insight and transform you to a whole other level. It will transform you to a whole other level. And that level that it will transform you into will empower you to utilize sexuality to make you even more powerful in your journey, to make you even more of a real vampire, and will bring you greater gnosis and understanding that you will need. So, sexual vampirism class will go over sexual alchemy, the 7 stages of sexual alchemy, the catalyst of sexual desires, the science of sex, and the power of sex. We also will go over sexual sorcery, sex as sorcery, the manipulation of the sexual energy, conscious, subconscious, unconscious sexual alignment, the power of sexual fantasies, the path of taboo, sexual empowerment, the demonic feminine, the demonic masculine, and gatekeepers. Then the sexual vampirism, vampirism and sex, feeding through sex, healing through sex, astral dream sex, and much, much more. This class will begin in January. Do sign up if you want to understand and empower yourself and you claim to be a vampire. Sign up for this sexual vampirism class. It will begin January. All right. Now, this was just a little discussion on never taking on the morality of your prey. Short, brief, to the point, but I just wanted to put this out there, make several announcements so that the new year we can empower ourselves even more and embody this vampiric current even more. All right. Now, I hope to see you all soon in the classes. And I will be getting to make YouTube videos even more soon, and soon. Infernal greetings and blessings to you all.